Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we are going to be finishing out the electrical. So we had done all the electrical rough-in before drywall, but now that the drywall is done and up and painted, we can do the kind of the finish out work. And what I mean by that is we're gonna go through and we're gonna install all the outlets in the walls. We're gonna put all the switches in. You can see here that we got ceiling fans installed in the living room. The can lights, I've started putting the trim rings and the final bulbs in. So we're gonna be going through a bunch of that we did kind of off and on while they were working on flooring, and then again after they finished the flooring. So I got all of the plugs, all the switches in. I am still waiting on fixtures to be able to finish out all of the can lights throughout the house. But we got a really good chunk of it done. We're also missing just a little bit or a few fixtures here to finish out the dining room, for example, lights to go over the vanities, but a good portion of everything has been completed. So let's not waste any time and let's jump onto it. So here is what the floor's like after 3 rounds of mopping. I spoke to the urethane floor guy today, and he said he ordered the urethane to go on top of the concrete weeks ago, but it's still not scheduled to arrive until the 8th. So in the meantime, we are going to go ahead and bring a mattress down and start sleeping inside. I have walked around and got all of the mini splits up and running. They are cooling the house down nicely. So we have air conditioning in the house now. And I am going to start continuing with electrical by installing outlets and switches and a ceiling fan here in the master bedroom, which is going to be the first room that we get done, so that we can put the bed in here and have lights at night and have power to charge phones and plug in Kindles and all that kind of stuff. So let's get to it. I started off by installing the plugs in the master bedroom. I worked my way all the way along the west side of the house, installing all the plugs and switches everywhere, and then moved over to the east side of the house. If you've ever installed plugs in a house before, you know where I'm coming from. It is just repetitive, tedious work. Plugs are about as straightforward as you can get. You connect the black to the black, the white to the white, the ground to the ground, and boom, you're done. Move on to the next one. It was a fairly time-consuming task, though. I think I counted that I had 55 plugs total in the house, and every single plug probably took me about 10 minutes or so to do. So you can, whatever that is, 550 minutes, you can figure that out. It's 10-ish hours to do the whole thing, which is quite a long time of just installing plugs. Here we kind of have a close-up of what it takes to install a plug. Like I said, it's fairly straightforward. You peel back the Romax, strip the ends, you connect the light colors together. On my plugs, I put pigtails on everything except for the GFCIs, and then you just shove it all back in the box and put the cover on it, and bam, you're done. So here I am installing the fan in the guest bedroom. I had already installed the fan in the master bedroom, so I moved over here and started doing the one in the guest bedroom. A fairly straightforward process. You just connect it up, follow the instructions, put the blades on, put the light on. All right, so this is the first ceiling fan that I hung here in the master bedroom, and you can see here on high speed that it is turning just buttery smooth, having no issues with this fan. But if we go into the guest bedroom and look at this one, this is the one I just recently installed, and when I turn this on high, it's got some wobble to it that I don't really like. So I am going to go ahead and try and fix that. And the way I'm going to try and fix it is I think the most likely scenario is that either one of the blades is loose or one of the blades is a little bit out of balance or something. So I'm going to take the blades off and put them back on in a different orientation and make sure they're real snug. And if that doesn't fix it, I will pull the whole thing down off the ceiling and then reinstall it to the ceiling, because maybe the mount to the ceiling is a little bit loose. I think those are the most likely problems. Okay, well, I got it fixed, but it wasn't actually the fans that were out of balance. This is kind of weird. I've never seen anything like this before. I would never have thought it would have made that big a deal, but they got this kind of cover here, and it's got this down rod with this pin that goes through it and these 2 set screws. And when I installed the pin and these set screws, I forgot to tighten these set screws down. So these are now good and snugged up. So we can cover that back up. And now you can see when I turn it on high, it no longer has the wobble. So when I installed the 2 in the living room, I need to make sure I remember that those set screws are actually important. All right, so the entire west side of the house, which is the living areas, are done. So I was actually bragging to my wife about this yesterday, but I was bragging about how every single circuit that I've done, every single switch, every single light, every single plug, the vent fans in the bathroom, so far everything has worked absolutely perfectly. I installed the outlet and the covers, or the switch and the covers, whatever I installed on the circuit. When I went and turned the breaker on at the box, everything so far has worked. I've had absolutely 0 mistakes or 0 problems with my wiring to this point. But today I jumped into the living room, dining room, kitchen area, and I discovered that here, these 2 plugs in the dining room, I got them tied together, but there's no power going to either one of those plugs. So I forgot to tie those plugs into a circuit, which is kind of a bummer. So what I'm gonna do for now is I'm just gonna roll that wire up, shove it back in the boxes, and just put blank covers on them. And the next time that I have to rip out drywall somewhere along this wall for whatever reason, I will tie them into a circuit. But kind of a bummer. I was really excited with how the west side of the house went. Like I said, absolutely everything is done. Ceiling fans are installed. Fans in the bathrooms are installed. Lights, vanity lights, everything. Everything's been going just absolutely good. And now I'm gonna have 2 just blank white covers on the wall for some outlet boxes that have no power run to them. I guess you can't win them all. Well, all right, those were officially the 2 fastest plug installs in the house. But all joking aside, I am pretty frustrated with myself for not bringing power to that, but it's not that big a deal. So this is in the dining room area, and we think that the dining room table may go here, kind of centered up underneath that fixture, but it may also be centered up over on this side, underneath that fixture. So it's not like we're gonna have a television or anything for sure that was supposed to plug into that wall. One of the things that we did use plugs by our dining room table for a lot in our previous house is if we were working on a laptop or something at the dining room table, you could plug your laptop in. So it's kind of a bummer that we aren't gonna have any plugs over on this wall. We will have a plug over here by this door, but that is kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. Like I said, I know that at some point in the future, I will have to tear into these walls for some reason or another, and the next time that I do, I will run power to whichever one of those outlets I can. And then they're already tied together, so that'll bring power to the other outlet. Well, okay, so I haven't filmed just a whole lot more stuff because it's essentially the most repetitive task. You know, installing one plug is the same as installing all the rest of the plug. So, you know, I didn't need to show myself doing all the rest of them throughout the house. But you can see that we do have all the finished switches in. So, you know, we have switches for, you know, this side of these lights, of course, over here. And this middle switch here, which is not tied into anything yet, will run whatever light fixtures we choose to have that hang down over the dining room table. So we have some boxes here for fancy fixtures in the dining room. We have some boxes in here for fancy fixtures over the kitchen island, which we haven't picked out yet. And we have a switch here. I still have to cut in and install the can lights that will go over the kitchen sink and will hang right here. But we can kind of walk around and take a look at some of the finished electrical outlets and stuff. So for example, here are all the outlets here in the kitchen. You have to forgive kind of our temporary kitchen setup for now. We are just trying to get out of the trailer, so we're moving more stuff in here to make this house livable while we do all the finish work. But for example, along this west wall, all of these plugs are on the same circuit, and this first plug in the circuit is a GFCI, and they are all tied into that plug. So if you trip that GFCI, you can trip it from any plug on this circuit, so they're all protected by a GFCI. We have a GFCI down here. It's on a separate circuit for the washing machine, and then we have another GFCI here that is also off this switch for a garbage disposal. It's the same thing from this GFCI, which protects all of these kitchen outlets along this back wall. Down here, you kind of see it there. That plug is for the refrigerator. It's on its own designated breaker. And the same thing for the microwave. It's on its own designated breaker as well. We also have the finished outlets down here. That one will be for the double ovens. And somewhere here behind all this mess is the outlet for the electric cooktop. Another thing I kind of want to point out to you that was kind of a bummer to find out is we bought these ceiling fans because we really liked the way they looked. We knew we wanted kind of black as our accent color throughout the house. So in the kitchen and the bathrooms, everything's going to have black hardware. And we're going to probably do some black accents throughout. Kind of goes with the black and white on the exterior of the building. But these ceiling fans, the way they're come now, they can only be controlled by these remote controls. They're not designed to be controlled by a normal switch. So I had originally wired in this 4-gang box thinking I was going to have 4 switches because I like the lights and the fans on separate switches for the house. But what these fans are supposed to do is you just always have them hot. You have power going to them all the time, and then you have these remote controls, which are the only way to control them. So I could have completely not had that 4-gang box at all, and then just run always hot power to the fans in order to just control them with the remote controls, and we could have put the remote controls wherever we wanted to do. So this was the solution that we came up with to kind of make it look a little bit more normal, as we just hung the remote controls where the switches were going to be. This south remote control, is for the south light or south fan, and the north one is for the north fan. And it's the same thing in the bedrooms, where I'd put a 2-gang switch or 2-gang box to have 2 switches, one for the light and one for the fans. I just put a blank cover over it and mounted the remote control there. Having the remote control is kind of nice, we've discovered, because you can bring it with you to bed and you don't have to get out of bed to turn the lights off. The other kind of cool thing about them is that, it's so I turn it on here, and just by holding the power button, it'll actually, dim and brighten. It's not really showing up on camera very well, but it does have kind of a built-in dimmer with it, which is kind of nice. But, it's just not the same as having a switch. So now you have to come in here, and if it's dark, you kind of mashing your hand around, and it's just a bunch of buttons, and you hope you push the right buttons, but there's really nothing we can do. So we actually bought these ceiling fans, and before we bought them, I called the manufacturer and said, could I wire them up on a switch? And the gal on the phone told me I could, and she lied to me, which was kind of frustrating. But let's see. So in here, we got a temporary kind of bathroom vanity setup. This is not the final vanity. I actually bought this to go in the shop for my shop sink, but we just have it hooked up in here temporary while we're living in here, so we have a running sink and running water. And you can see we have this fixture in here for the vanity. I do have, you know, rings and light bulbs in these lights. That one is a completely enclosed waterproof one. But I am actually, I bought all of the trim rings at all the stores. So you can see I don't have trim rings or finished bulbs in all the lights yet, because I bought all the trim rings from all the Lowe's in town and we still don't have enough. When you come into here and you can see we have switches that run the bathroom. We got lights for the vanity in here. We got the main lights in here. We have the light for the shower. And it's the same thing for the water closets, which has its own designated fan there. And we also have a fan in here for the shower. And of course the wife's closet and the utility room, everything's working as well. So we have, I'm gonna say 90% of the electrical work done. Like I said, we just have a couple more vanity fixtures that we need to go buy and hang. And we need to, of course, do the ones over the dining room table and then the ones over the kitchen island. And that's going to do it for this video. So you kind of getting to see all the finishing touches come into place on the house. It's making us super excited to get ready to move in. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.